Hello, welcome to the Total Clarity Podcast. I'm Jessie Hyatt.
And I'm Mike Varlet, and welcome to week 38 of our 52-week walk around New York City.
This week, we were walking a special movie walk. We did a walk where we went to we went to some of the locations of the Royal Tenenbaums film by Wes Anderson.
That's right. We did a bunch of Manhattan locations. We actually did a bunch of Brooklyn locations, and we didn't do it alone. We have a guest this week, Mr. Ramsey Ess. Ramsey is a dear friend, a longtime friend, as you will soon find out, and it was great to reconnect with him after a prolonged time not talking.
Yeah, and it was great. This longtime friend was a longtime friend of Mike's and a new friend for me, so it was great to meet Ramsey really properly tonight on the digital medium Zoom.
Yeah.
We had a nice conversation. We talked about the movie, we talked about friendship, we talked about New York, we talked about the locations of the movie, Wes Anderson films in general, we talked about our feelings about media, different types of media, and that's all. Right. I think I've told you enough.
That's right. I think
we did, heads up, if you haven't seen the Royal Tenenbaums, there's a couple moments where we did spoil things.
That's right.
There are some spoilers. So if you haven't seen it and you're mad at spoilers, pause here, watch the Royal Tenenbaums, come back and listen.
That's
Otherwise, here, this is just so that you can't say that we didn't warn you.
That's right. And if you're just here for the juice, the Royal Tenenbaums episode content, you could skip a half hour in. We're giving you like a roadmap for how to listen to this episode.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily recommend it because we had a good time.
I think the first half hour was relevant to everyone, regardless of how much you are excited to hear the Royal Tenenbaums content. But you're right. If you're like, if you're really itching to get straight into the movie, skip ahead and then come back and listen to the first half later so that you really get the whole picture.
We'll put a treasure map out on the links below so where you can just skip to minute 48, 52, 107, 18. I think I'm hitting all the beats there.
Those are the beats.
Yeah. But in the meantime, please enjoy our time with Ramsey Ess. Ramsey, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's fantastic. We were thinking from the very start of this project that we wanted to have you on for this particular episode. Or I guess when I say we, I mean me.
Yes. We have been, but because Mike said my friend Ramsey is going to be perfect for this episode, and so I've been thinking, great, Mike's friend Ramsey is going to join us. Can't wait.
Yeah.
I know you just introed me, but I do have this prepared.
Perfect.
Yes. Well, and this is exactly demonstrative of why we wanted to have Ramsey on, because he brings it. He brings it every time. Yeah. Well, we did a little chatter before we started, but you two have actually met once. I don't know if you would recall or not, but your 30th birthday, which is also the last time I saw you.
Is that true?
Sure. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I don't know how that had actually happened, but you were, I think, was it at Halyard's or it was at a bar?
Yeah. Yep.
And I lived on 11th and 3rd in Gowanus, and I think it must have been when we had just first started dating. And Mike was like, "Oh, I'm going to this birthday party down the street." So we went, and I know that we met, but I don't really remember anything about the evening except that, like, I remember seeing your face and saying, "Hi, happy birthday."
and depending on how
really
late it was, I might not remember anything.
That's totally fair.
As is your right, as a 30th birthday person.
Or any birthday, or really any time,
any
whatever.
day.
Any day.
You're right, as a human.
Right as a human.
But yeah.
But it is nice to re-meet you in this strange digital format, and not in a dark bar. It's equally confusing and different, but but I think we'll remember this one a little bit better.
I think so too. And we'll have several records of it as well.
Exactly.
In both audio and video.
That's
exactly. Right. If our memories fail at any point, we can always just go back and relive it.
Yeah.
Check it.
But
it is kind of a good thing that I'm not there in person because I might definitely clash with your curtain.
That's right.
It's just a floating head.
I mean, you are already
you
kind
are
of
a floating head in our,
That's true.
from our view, but
Yeah. But
it's
yeah.
a very nice suit.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I believe the inside says Ramsey Ess wore this suit.
Oh my gosh.
Nice. I love that.
Really
what was
nice
what was the occasion, or how did you get that?
This would have been about maybe 2 or 3 years now. I decided for a New Year's resolution, I'm going to start dressing better. And so at work, I pretty much wear a suit most days now. Just sort of like steadily once every 6 months, there's this Indochino is this suit making company that is surprisingly good quality for not a lot of money. And so I just kind of steadily built up my wardrobe. And I haven't put on a suit in a year now since the pandemic started.
Yeah.
Because I can get away with just wearing a button-up shirt from home.
Right.
But yeah, that's why I have this
Nice.
Wes Anderson suit.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So for the folks at home, you work at, and like how did your I don't want to give it away, but how did your coworkers receive it, or how did your compatriots? I don't know what
the New Year's resolution?
Yeah.
So it was funny. At first, people thought I was leaving my office because I was he must be going on a job interview after work.
Yeah.
So over time, it was just like, oh, that's the suit guy. And it just, everybody got used to it. And now I don't think anyone remembers that I would just walk around with an untucked button-up shirt all day. It kind of just became me.
And
Nice.
what I don't think I know, because as everyone knows, we are just meeting. What is the job that you were wearing this suit to?
I'm a high school teacher.
Okay, wow.
Yep.
So how did I guess the students were impressed, or has it changed? Like, I mean, of course now we're all digital, but did it change any of their outfits? Like, did any of your students start dressing nicer too?
I don't think anyone stepped it up. Once in a while, like, it happened at least once that that one student would dress as me for Halloween.
Oh.
Because all you have to do is put on the suit you have from a wedding. So that was definitely nice. But I do get a lot of like, oh, Mr. S is fancy, like those sorts of comments. And I always just spin it as like, well, I dress it because I like to respect you guys, that sort of thing.
That's
so I turn
nice.
it around on them.
That's really nice, yeah.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I was saying before we started the podcast as well, and the fact that we haven't seen you since your 30th birthday, and I won't say how many years out of respect, but it's been a number of years, and we've known each other for long enough that the Royal Tenenbaums was a relevant film. When we knew each other. Not that it's unrelevant now, but you know what I mean. Like it was culturally, impacting things. But we're doing this project where we're walking around New York City, and so the all three of us happen to be people that have moved here and now lived here for 10 plus years. We have our chip. And I think that now that we've all lived here long enough, I know that now that I've lived here long enough, it's interesting to start seeing the type of relationships like the one I have with you, where people come and go out of your life, and you can't always necessarily pinpoint why it is that those things happen.
Right.
And we went to your 30th birthday, and I had no anticipation that was the last time I was going to physically see you in X amount of years, but it just happened. And I don't know if I guess I could go around the room and then the other room about these types of things where you have one set. It's like super college. You have one set of people when you get here, and then it evolves into a totally different way.
Yeah. I mean, I have a thought that it just came to me right now, and I don't know, I'm going to say it, but I don't know, I'm not like staking it down because it just came. But there's something to this where it feels kind of similar to knowing that there's a really awesome museum in the city that you can kind of like visit anytime, and you might get an email that's like, this museum is having a really great exhibition and it's going to be on for this short amount of time, and you're like, yeah, I'll go to that, and then you like don't, but you think you will, and you're like, well, I'll catch it the next time, and then before you know it, you're like, shit, I haven't gone to my favorite museum for like 10 years. I can't believe it. I almost feel like it's like that with some of my long-term New York relationships, where it's like every time I see this person, I'm like super psyched, and anytime I get an invite, I'm like, yeah, I want to do that. But then you just get like, I don't know if I love this analogy, because I feel like part of the museum thing is that I take it for granted that it's here, and I don't feel that way about like the really cool people that I know, and I don't want to put that on it, but I kind of like it because I also think it's kind of fun. And there's something to that where it's like we have all this awesome stuff around us, and
Right.
the time just goes because there's so many cool things to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's true.
I was just talking about the Muppet exhibit at the Museum of the Moving Image that I still haven't seen. It's driving me crazy. I helped kickstart that thing on Kickstarter. I'm thinking a lot about, for me, I think the biggest change in our specific friendship is I moved. And we were a lot less close, even though we're still in Brooklyn, and
Right.
it's not that far, all
No.
things considered.
No.
I have a car.
Yeah.
You're on my way to work. Or actually, have you moved? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, wait, but 5 years ago. So
Man.
I used to. If the location you're referring to is the place I used to live with Mark and everybody, like at Bushwick and Metropolitan. No, I don't live there anymore. But now I live off the Wilson L or the Chauncey J. So like, farther down. But yeah, I mean, it's not that far away.
Yeah.
So the point still stands. I mean, it's wild.
And it's weird that like it's not that far. Like
No.
on a nice day, it's walkable, as you guys could.
Yeah, as demonstrated. Yeah. It's weird. It's how things pass through, and I mean, there are also those situations where things go sour, and then you don't interact with people, and that's a different type
the
of thing.
museum's mad at you.
But yeah, which has happened,
Yeah.
Won't name names, but Whitney.
Oh. But I do think like part of it is, I like that analogy a lot, because it's like, at any point I do know like that museum's out there. I'm going to see that museum again. It's
Right.
just I keep forgetting to go, or
Yeah.
I haven't reached out to get my tickets.
Yep.
Right.
Well, and to that point, I mean, the last time we had talked to you prior to telling you about this podcast was actually a year and 2 weeks ago, maybe, because we were talking about doing our project release party, or like our kickoff party, and you were like, "Yeah, sure, I'll come." And then it was
ready.
like, okay, well, there's a certain pandemic coming through. It'll only last a couple of weeks, but I don't think we should do a project release party right now, and that was that. So, it's wild. I mean, I guess part of it too is like, I started the job at the video game company, which more or less coincided with your 30th birthday. So there's just kind of this whole chunk of time where, a life change as big as that just deviates you into a different place,
Yeah, so I kind of forgot about the party. I remembered getting drinks with you at the Italian restaurant next to that apartment.
Right, yeah.
And that was right as you had started there.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, damn. Well, yeah, maybe this is getting too insidery at this point.
sorry, yes.
No. I mean,
No.
this is-
We're catching up,
yeah,
listeners.
exactly. Sorry, folks. Yeah.
I mean, I think anyone listening has had a catch-up session with a friend at some point can definitely relate to this conversation. So keep it going.
I'd like to believe that, and I'd like to. And as I said, I think that it is a maybe not uniquely New York, but uniquely metropolitan area type situation where it's like, if we lived in a small town, we would had some sort of acrimonious fight, or we would be seeing each other. There's just no, like, even if it were just incidentally at the supermarket or something. But
There's nothing else to do.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly. But here that's not the case, and I guess, I mean, I think that's one of the nice parts about living in a major area is that, yeah, the museum thing is really apt because it just feels like there is a bounty of accessible things to do and people to interact with. And it's just always feels nice to have it all on hand, you know?
Yeah.
And I like the part of it, like, it's an institution. That Guggenheim is not going to move. It's going to be there. So, like, I can always return to it.
Right.
Right. Well, that's why I like that word, too, because it's not just like, oh, there's a pop-up shop that's opening for a couple weeks or something, your transient friends. But, yeah, it's like the relationships that you know that, because what I know of the two of you, you've spent enough time with each other prior to sort of the last however many years it's been, that you know that you've created this institutional bond that you can always go back to.
Yeah. I mean, Facebook agrees. I wasn't going to bring this up necessarily, but just this week, I received one of the Facebook memories that comes up in your inbox, or if you check Facebook, it lets you know. And it was from 15 years ago. And it was so old that they don't let you share it. So I sent it to Ramsey. And there was a period of time where I don't know how often, I guess it would go in bunches. Sometimes it'd be like every day, and then other times it'd be like weeks, where we do these like Bill Brasky-esque facts about each other and post them on the Facebook wall. So I'm just going to read this one, because I think it was one of your better ones, to be perfectly honest. When producers came to the Disney Channel to pitch a new television sitcom for tweens, it was initially entitled That's Moderately Raven. After consulting with Michael Varley, however, it was soon realized that the program needed at least 50% more Raven. Though this required a complete rewrite, without the advice of one Mr. Varley, That's So Raven would not exist, and the state of America would have taken a turn for the worst. The last sentence is actually the best part of it, because as we know, That's So Raven could not save us. But
No, yeah, now we have that knowledge.
Yeah.
15 years ago, it was a more innocent time.
That's right.
It's amazing. Mike read this to me yesterday during the day, and it's amazing that that's what Facebook used to be.
It was nice.
So sweet.
Yeah,
So nice.
absolutely.
Yep.
It's a little bulletin board.
Yeah, you could just do a little joke and not have to face the politics of your relatives.
That's right. Yeah, no likes, no dislikes, no...
Maybe no share button. Maybe that's why. Maybe it predates the ability.
It makes me wonder, do they have like separate storage? Like the Facebook is so labyrinthine, like to try and do anything on there in the back end is like an impossible task. And so I guess it must just get stored somewhere that's like, yeah, that was a 15-year-old version of it. We're never updating that.
Right.
But yeah. We walked by UCB Chelsea today. Is that, or what used to be the UCB Chelsea location?
Yep.
Which is now Improv something. What was it called?
It was it was not a good name.
Are you familiar with what we're talking about now? It's like Improv Deathmatch or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I remember hearing that a new improv theater was there, but I don't know any more than that.
Yeah. But
sad.
Yeah.
So that was something you were involved in when you were new to the city?
Yeah, I want to say about a year in. I started taking classes there, and then not too long after, I got on a sketch house team as a writer, and so every month we would produce a new show, and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And so many friends and so much content, and I still don't know how I did all of that every month for free. Goodness sakes.
Oh, wow.
Right, yeah.
I paid a coach to do it.
How long did you do that for?
I want to say that was probably in the 2.5-year range.
Wow.
I want to say.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a lot of shows.
Yeah.
And they had since moved to Hell's Kitchen, and now they do not exist in New York at the current moment.
Oh, is there not, the UCB East doesn't exist anymore either?
That one shut down before the pandemic for not being profitable.
Oh, that's too bad.
That was a nice little spot too.
Yeah.
But they just couldn't have 2 theaters going, I guess.
Yeah.
They're saying they'll come back when all this settles down, but who knows?
I hope so.
Were you
Yeah.
still, like, to what degree were you still embedded in the whole scene?
I would say not very at all.
No.
I went to see a couple shows, and it felt very much like returning to a high school. Not that I
Right.
had graduated beyond it or anything. I'm not saying anything like that, but just it's like, oh yeah, look at those kids doing that thing I used to do.
Right, right.
I don't know any of them. That's the new class.
Yeah.
That sort of
Right.
feeling.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
I mean, it was a lot of fun. It was, and it
Mhm.
was also a great thing to do when first starting in the city, as you know, going to see your shows. I remember, like, and to this day, like, still see some of the actors that you worked with, like, in national spots, which is kind of fun.
That's a very strange thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I also, I remember thinking, it's just so funny. It's just like thinking at like 23 or whenever we were doing it, being like, I think I've missed the boat. I think I'm too old to do something like this. Like this is what Ramsey wants to do, but I think like it's past me. I've always felt like that, and similarly about like stand up too. I've always felt like, yeah, I missed it, and then it just kept getting older and older, and being like, no, I missed it. I don't know why I ever thought that, but like it was a perfect thing to do starting in the city, you know, especially at our age. It's not like, you know.
Yeah, and like it's funny that attitude is exactly like my my comedy model keeps changing, where it's like, oh, John Mulaney was so and so years old. Oh, well, okay, but Conan started at here. Well, Rodney Dangerfield was 42 right out of the war, so I'm still good.
That's right. It's just a little airborne. I'm still good. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's funny. It's like opposite things. But yeah, I mean, I very fondly remember going to those shows. I had a friend, Grant. Actually, you know, I didn't think this was going to come up, but I guess it did. And I swear we're going to get to the Royal Tenenbaums stuff. Were you involved in the improv? Were you involved in improv at all at Geneseo?
I tried out for the improv. They would not have me.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Wow.
Well, they were very good, except for
didn't
my
know
friend
they were
Grant.
missing.
Except for my friend Grant Gordon, and he had a room, like a stand-up workout room near where I used to live, called Sack Magic, and that was a very similar experience for me, where it was, you know, you going to the UCB and seeing all the talent there that was cycling through, and then going to this workout room like every Monday and seeing all that happen, and yeah, just the what is available in the city in terms of comedy, and now we're walking around. I don't know if you've seen this at all, but they're still doing open mics, you know, but they're in the weirdest places now. Like we
'Cause
saw,
they're all outside.
yeah,
So the first one we saw was in Brooklyn Bridge Park, and it was down like, I don't know if you can picture this, but in Brooklyn Bridge Park, there's a little area where you can dock a kayak.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and they had the like life preservers set up for people, or the life vests set up. There must have been a kayaking excursion going on, and then there was a guy doing stand-up right next to it, and I thought for sure it was just the person explaining like safety tips for kayaking until we got closer and heard that he was doing jokes, and it was like, this is it's just confusing.
yeah,
So I felt, you know, it's one of those things where we didn't stick around to see if he was funny or not, no judgment on the person, but just like when you're like, oh, there's like a lot happening here, I feel for this person.
Right.
it's
yeah.
definitely. I mean, we've seen in Central Park, we've seen it in Times Square, and we're talking like inevitably less than 6 people, you know, watching, and they're like all the other comics. Like it really is a profession that just is not durable to this particular situation. But I really think that in a few years' time, you'll hear people talking on podcasts being like, yeah, coronavirus, I was doing it in front of the kayaks, and, you know, moms were giving me a hard time for going blue, you know, like it's, but yeah.
And these kids with their open bars don't know how good they have it now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but anyway, we could go on and on about this type of stuff, but we should switch.
And we will.
And we
So-
will. we should switch to the reason that maybe the two people that stuck it out with us are listening, which is the Royal Tenenbaums. So to give a little backstory of this particular walk, where we're in Manhattan for the whole month. This is our second movie walk of 3 scheduled. The first one we did was actually several movies all set in Queens. And then this one is what we thought was going to be almost all Manhattan locations. But as we did some more research the week prior to starting, we found a bunch of new locations in Brooklyn. So we deviated from our prescribed route one day just to kind of capture those locations. So we'll be covering those as well. But yeah, I mean, the movie itself, I know you mentioned you rewatched it, right? We rewatched it earlier this week. I would say it still holds up pretty well. Like, I think it's patinaing in a pretty good way.
I would agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
There were a couple things that hit me differently as an adult, but that's more me than the movie itself.
What were some of the things that you think about?
I think the biggest one was as an adult, I had a little less sympathy for Ben Stiller's character, which I feel a little bit bad for.
Oh, interesting.
He's had a rough year, but he's still being a huge jerk to everybody.
That's funny.
great.
I actually had the opposite.
Ooh.
When I had watched it previously, I was like, oh, interesting character choice, whatever. I didn't really care that much about what was going on with him. When we watched it this time, I also might have been very tired, but as soon as he came on, I started crying, and I said to Mike, oh my gosh, this character is just so sad. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But he also, he was being a jerk.
I think it was, I'm fine with him being angry at Royal. Go for it, man. But why are you mad at Richie's poster? Somebody put it in your room.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. I guess it never is really. I mean, the implicit idea is because Royal gets along with Richie better, he doesn't like him. But
Right.
I don't think he has any interactions with Margot. Really, do they interact at all?
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Other than Margot and vice versa with Margot. Margot is upset that he gets to move home, and that inspires everybody coming together. But otherwise, they don't interact at all.
Yeah.
And he interacts with his mom, but not really in a way either.
Yeah.
But ironically, that connection, whether Ben Stiller's character is particularly authentic or effective at all, the Royal Ben Stiller thing is kind of the driving force of the movie. It's ultimately a father and son reuniting,
Right.
And then the
Right.
rest is this high octane aesthetic experience, I guess, that really, I mean, I think shaped a lot of the the aesthetics of men and women our age group. I look at Luke Wilson's character and I look at Gwyneth Paltrow's character, and that's how people dressed and acted and looked from 2001 to 2012, basically.
That is Williamsburg. They defined Williamsburg.
Yeah, exactly.
True.
Yeah.
And it's shockingly effective in that respect. I don't know how that happened, why that happened, how much of it they were borrowing from existing things that were happening, and how much of it was Wes Anderson putting that out there. I don't really know.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I think the films that. Oh, sorry.
go ahead.
I think I had a slight lag there. I
Go ahead.
apologize. I was just going to say, it also influenced the films so much that came out. All the text on screen and all the montagey moves, or I don't have a specific example, but using the book as sort of the motif.
Right.
I'm sure that idea, that sort of similar thing has been ripped off.
Yeah,
countless
totally.
times.
Totally. I was thinking that obviously a lot of things, but as far as the book motif and the idea of the narrator, I was thinking that that is actually a really important film for Alec Baldwin, even though he's never actually visually present in the film. I looked up his kind of TV and filmography. It was after the Sweaty Balls sketch from Saturday Night Live, which established him as like a voice, like an actual like voice. But I think the Royal Tenenbaums gives this sophistication and dryness that is played out a lot in 30 Rock, I think, too. And like it really gave him a dimensionality to his career that has propelled him to this kind of like debonair smartass, you know.
Right.
And of course, the Trump now thing is like a whole new other thing. But like, I think it was really important for his career.
It might be the first appearance of Alec Baldwin, podcaster, you're saying.
Yeah, maybe. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's also. I mean, I don't know what his sort of. How he was related to New York before that, but I feel like now he's very much like a New York guy. Like anytime NPR is doing a donation drive, it's always matched by Alec Baldwin. Like he's always calling in to talk with Brian Lair, and like he's like the New York, and he's on Saturday Night Live a lot, and I don't know what his New York affiliation was prior to the Royal Tenenbaums, other than, you know, probably living here already. But
he was a Long Island guy.
Okay.
So he graduated basically. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And Saturday Night Live, even prior to his Trump portrayal, was a thing of his as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But that was something I thought about. Also, the montage, or it's not a montage. I'm not sure what it is. The two sections at the start of the film, one of them 8 minutes, one of them 7 minutes, that show the childhood and then the downfall of the Royal Tenenbaums is so strong and just sets the entire aesthetic for the movie. It sets all the parameters, and almost every one of those things that occur in either of those sections is referenced again by the characters, which also made me think that, in a weird way, there's a connection to Family Guy. And follow me on this one, because every episode of Family Guy, they'll be like, oh, remember the time you were with Samuel L. Jackson at the diner and blah, blah, blah. And then they go to that section where it's Samuel L. Jackson at the diner, you know, playing the accordion or something. It's almost as if they took, because all of those scenes at the beginning of the movie could have conceivably been scattered throughout the Royal Tenenbaums.
True.
But instead it was front-loaded. And like, I wonder what it would have looked like if the movie was played out so that you would just jump back in time to that moment and then go back to it. And then conversely, I wonder what a Family Guy episode would be like if you just front-loaded all of the references.
Peter Griffin was at the diner with Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, exactly. But they also, the Family Guy's super into, doing long, unnecessary musical bits. So I could see them potentially doing that. And then having basically a 7-minute episode or something, you know. But
it was very interesting what it did to the pacing. And I don't think I noticed this at all, but like the first third of the movie, even into I hit the mic, even into cut that out, even into the once we are out of the past, like the Ben Stiller and his kids with the smoke alarm situation.
Yeah,
it's very, 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 very fast.
Yeah,
but then as soon as Royal enters their lives, things slow down and get very reflective.
Yeah, it's like this super adrenaline pumped, here's the past 3 seasons of the Royal Tenenbaums.
Right.
And now this is the movie. Because it really breaks down. It's an hour and 50 minutes long. And it's 15 minutes of this preamble, an hour and a half of content, and then the credits. Jesse, I don't know if I've never asked if it bothers you, but I literally, when we watch movies like this, I will stop and be like, what's the timing? I'm curious to where are the beats that are happening right here? And
no, the only thing that bothers me is when you sit on the remote and it fast forwards and we have to find it again. No, I don't mind a small pause.
That's way more common than it should be.
Well, I'm definitely feeling the aftershock of that comment, so.
Sorry.
Oh no. I'm aware that it's annoying.
But yeah, let's start going over the locations so folks can see.
Go to the map.
Let's go to the videotape. We'll start in Brooklyn, which I didn't really realize that there were this many in that area, and it's like the Park Slope, Windsor Terrace area, which was populated with spots. The first one we'll go to is Henry Sherman. Is that Danny Glover's character? I think is it Henry Sherman?
I think that's right.
I think it is.
Right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. We'll go with it. His
Mr.
home,
Sherman to you.
Mr. Sherman. That's right. I've known him as my accountant, Mr. Sherman, for a year. He is so angry. He's not necessary.
Yeah. That being mean to him is really unnecessary too. Yeah.
But his house is on 83 Prospect Park West, and so it's right on the park there. You don't see it until the end of the film when Royal is in his do-good phase, and he's going to do a divorce with the notary, on the spot. And it's a gorgeous home. Mm-hmm. I should have looked this up in advance, but we'll provide a link to it. It's now like an organizational location. It's not a like a private residence. It is a home that houses different like community activities.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, and it was cool to see, and I passed it 100 times and never noticed. It's on between First and Second, so pretty close to Grand Army Plaza.
I did notice in the movie there was a statue or something that was labeled Sherman.
Really?
Or yeah.
Oh.
Like right next to the stairs. I didn't pause it to look at it closer, but
Oh yeah.
my eyes were very trained on the scenery this time around for you
Yeah.
guys. So
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's one of those. Yeah, one of the amazing details of this film. I mean, the level of world building is part of what sells the entire thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I was pleased to walk by that one. The second one, pretty close there. There's actually the next two are immediately next to each other. There is starting with Riley Sinclair's home, Bill Murray's home, which is on 196 16th Street between 5th and 6th Avenue. Yeah, between 5th and 6th Avenue. And I had never thought about the location where he lived ever in this movie prior to having to watch it for that reason. But Jesse and I, when we first saw it, we were like, that's not Manhattan.
Yeah.
That's definitely not where Manhattan is. Like, it probably in Brooklyn. I don't know. It has that feel of like somewhere that's not as majestic at all.
I think in that scene is the first time also that you see the taxi cab and the way that they make the taxi cabs like so busted, which is really funny.
Yeah.
Which makes you also, I think, adds to like, oh, that's not the city, but
Yeah.
But I didn't know it was there. I thought it maybe was even, I don't know, further flung. Seemed like more spacious.
yeah, we decided Queens in this house just on our guts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was wondering. Yeah, go on.
Oh, I was just gonna say definitely the saddest exterior in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else. Really.
Yeah, and I guess his character is kind of sad also. Just like maybe not where it starts, but where it ends.
Yeah.
He doesn't really get the best hand.
Yeah. I was wondering, I didn't look up in the credits to what degree, if at all, Noah Baumbach was involved in this film. But I believe if The Squid and the Whale is autobiographical, I believe he grew up in the area. And I was wondering if there was any influence that maybe he brought to that idea. Because the Riley Sinclair character does kind of feel like the Jeff Daniels-y character from The Squid and the Whale, like the 80s professor-y, he bought this house a while ago and it's kind of grown up around him type thing. And also it also kind of feels the middle-class way that in Rushmore, Jason Schwartzman's father kind of represents that thing. But his character Jason Schwartzman's father's character is way more middle-class than Bill Murray. Bill Murray's character is, I don't know if what you would consider him. Not a fop, but just kind of like somebody to be made fun of for his intellectualism,
Right. Yeah. And like Jason Schwartzman's dad is still like working, whereas this guy can write his book about his patient.
Yeah.
And just kind of keep his feet up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I mean, the fact that his patient is just with him everywhere he goes all the time. That's definitely something I hadn't really thought of until we rewatched it, and I had the time to be like, wait, why is Dudley living? Like, is he living with him? Is he like?
Yeah. Yeah. It's not physical comedy, but it is like some type of simpler what was he? I'm colorblind? Yes, I'm afraid you are. Like he can he can hear acutely and just, there's something about he's not flopping around, but he is like certainly not an intellectual character.
Yeah.
Right.
And then literally on the other side of the block, or, you go one around and you're on the Prospect Expressway, and there is then the Grand Prospect Hall, which
Oh yeah.
we've walked by a number of times and admired the interior. I've never been in there. I don't know if you've been in there or not, but
I have not.
It's wonderful.
I don't know if I'm allowed to make this request, but if you can cut in the commercial for the Grand Prospect Hall, it's wonderful.
Really? I don't think I'm familiar with it. Is it on YouTube?
Probably. I can find it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But there's an older woman who I assume owns the place who just goes, "The Grand Prospect Hall, we make your dreams come true." It's my favorite.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen it. Where did you see it? Like just on the internet or?
On the TV.
On the TV. Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm.
If nothing else, we should definitely put a link to it,
Yeah.
whether if we can't
There we go.
cut
Yeah.
it. But I went there once for a Balkan festival.
Ooh.
It was incredible. It was just, there was Balkan music and thousands of people, and the Balkan musicians were like stomping around on the ground floor, and then everyone else was dancing, and it was in that scene, and yeah, incredible.
Yeah. So the Grand Prospect Hall, the exterior shots we're showing right now, it's a little disingenuous because the exterior is not actually shown in the film. And this is one of several locations where, for COVID-related reasons, we were not able to get in to give more footage. But the exterior itself looks like it should be in a Wes Anderson film. Perhaps it's why it was, explored as an area to go. And then the scene that was filmed there was actually the ice cream parlor scene with Margot and Royal.
I remarked that is the fanciest ice cream parlor that has ever existed.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, exactly. It was, and now looking at it in the context of that hall, it's just a very small sliver of what the space is. It might just be like one little alcove. I don't really know. I've never been in there with the express idea of like looking around for that, but yeah. So that's that look. Those are all of the Brooklyn locations. There was one Queens location. We didn't go out to it because it was just so far-flung relative to what we're doing, but that was, I think it's in Forest Hills. It's related to Richie's tennis career.
I can actually talk about this one real quick.
Please,
for you.
please, yeah.
So I actually teach in Forest Hills.
Yeah.
So I have been here a few times, and they have since renovated and do concerts there from time to time.
Oh, okay.
And so the tennis court is still out there, and that's actually where they have the various concerts on the court itself.
Yeah.
But a little secret is the go-karting is happening just outside the stadium within the
Really?
grounds.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which I didn't recognize until this time because I've been
Nice.
there.
Oh, interesting. When Royal takes the grandsons out there
Yep.
to go. Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, there may be some further investigation that I was not able to find into the locations that are in this film, but there are so many places that are in here that are not covered. Like I didn't see anything about the go-karts. That makes sense. That
It's a scoop for your podcast.
That's right. That's right. Chaz's apartment, where they do the fire drill. The best I could see was somebody was like, I just know it's on Park Avenue somewhere. And
In my heart.
Yeah, it's right. That's right. And I think there's a lot of spots like that, which would be cool if there's whoever the locations person was for the Royal Tenenbaums. If you ever feel inspired and like in a lull of work, I think it'd be a really good thing to plot all the other spots that are not yet covered by the internet. But
I will say in the stadium now there is a brass plaque and a brass sneaker that says in the stadium on such and such a date, Richie the Bomber Tenenbaum played the worst game of tennis in his life.
Really?
Oh, really?
Yep.
That's amazing.
And it's really great.
Yeah. We had an interaction that we'll elaborate on when we get uptown, but Jesse had spoken to somebody on the phone today about getting into one of our locations, and she referenced the fact that the movie was filmed there.
Yeah.
And he remembered that it had gone on. And I guess it's such a film where I'm not really sure if people are going to know or not. Because, it's really such, it's a, Wes Anderson is like kind of, I don't know, middle tier in terms of like notoriety in the world. And it's like such a hipstery niche kind of, film. That I just don't know. Most people I think in New York would be like, I don't know what you're talking about,
Well, and there's so many films happening here that a lot of people are just like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what The Prodigal Son is, but that was filming here the other day.
Exactly.
But with Wes Anderson, I think like your art snobs are going to be like, oh, that guy, okay, I've heard it. Yeah, I know that.
Right.
But then like my parents are. They're just going to say, I thought Bill Murray was funny. What is this? That's ridiculous.
Exactly.
There's a little bit of wiggle room.
Yeah, totally. So we'll start from downtown and work our way up for some of the other locations here. We have one Bowling Green, which is also known as the Customs House. And that's where the Museum of the Native American is currently. And in the film, it's referred to as the Public Archives, and that is where Margot and Richie go to run away. And they hide out in the African wing, and they sleep under the bench, which is a great shot. It really obviously it must just be a bench with it cut out, but it feels like an X-ray view into that location,
Yeah. And that dolly shot just goes on forever down that hallway.
I know, it's so good. And so the exterior of Margot, is Eli with them? Is Eli Cash with them at that point?
When they camp out in the... No.
I think
know,
no,
right?
no, he's not when they camp with them, but he's like, can I come in? And she's like, no. And don't tell anybody about it. And then Margot and Richie hang out in that. I mean, it's a shot that lasts, longer in the interior than it does at the exterior. But it's just one of those, amazingly done at the start of the movie where it's just like, just put as many antiquity, highbrow things as possible into this film so we can set the tone,
Yeah.
And so that's that location. And there's one that's kind of a location, kind of not a location. I presume it was filmed there, but it could, maybe is not. And that's the Staten Island ferry shot where Margot is making out with one of the guys when they're doing the dossier on her. Now the name of the actual ferry is escaping me because there's literally not a single thing that's one-to-one in the film.
No, it's not called the Staten Island Ferry. I remember calling it out when we were watching it, but I don't remember now.
Yeah.
I watched it just last night and I don't remember what it was. I do remember it.
There's so many little bits here and there that you'd have to write them all down. But yeah.
I was just too busy dancing to the Ramones
to
make note.
Perfect. And how they cut it off abruptly. So good. But yeah, so that's another location that is referenced, not the exterior, but the boat itself. And then, right down there as well is Battery Park. And Battery Park is where Royal, what is the caretaker's name? Pagoda.
Pagoda.
Yeah, where Pagoda tells Royal that his wife is going to get married, and then they start scheming. And it's like I don't remember if Bottle Rocket or if Rushmore do this. I mean, they must, but like we have so many. But by that point, which is again like smack dab like 15 minutes into the film, because now it's starting, we've had like 15 centered shots of people. You know, main characters. I mean, you've introduced all the main characters. There have been a bunch of like secondary, tertiary characters that have been like all centered, and then those two characters. It's like the reverse shot. Royal is backed by the park, and then Pagoda is backed by the water with the two like what are those poles called? I don't know. You know, like the I don't know if they're mooring or whatever, but just like it's bonkers how much non-character space occurs in these shots, but it feels so symmetrical. You know.
And in that shot of Pagoda, my wife pointed out that he is perfectly blocking the Statue of Liberty.
Is he?
Yep.
Oh,
This
wow.
it's a New York without any landmarks
Yeah.
there.
Well, that's a great point too. I mean, that was something I was thinking about. I mean, in the walk as a whole, you know, it is New York, but I've never really thought about it as being in New York. You know, like
Right.
I don't know if it's not necessarily antiseptic, but it's just it uses the set dressing in this way that I really don't know if another film uses New York in such a manner. Because if you're filming in New York, it's kind of a pain in the ass to film in New York. Like you want,
Right.
you kind of want to get your money's worth. Like, no,
Yeah.
we're here. We want to attach our film to this idea of what New York is, and they don't do that at all. You know.
There's a shot, I can't remember which location it was, but it's looking down a full city block, and they must have had to time it just perfectly. You see the taxi cab come around the corner and come down to pick up Royal, I think it is.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, like, not only are they having to now block off one street, they're also blocking off this other street it's crossing with, and there's somebody like timing this perfectly. That was just like a really hard shot to get in New York City.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
I was thinking a similar thing at the end of the movie, you know, when Eli races down the street, and we haven't hit this location yet, but it's way uptown, and we realized when we went there that he is driving down the wrong way on a one-way street, and there was like so much street parking. And so they must have had to clear all those cars, and like also you're going the wrong way and manage all the traffic and stop all that. And yeah, I mean, it wasn't, at least that's in like a smaller neighborhood area, but still the logistics to do these sorts of things, especially in this city where it's just like, it's expensive and there's so many hoops.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it must have, I don't know what the budget was, but it certainly was the first film where Wes Anderson was kind of able to dictate some things at least. And it's such a powerful statement that he was, you know, like, no, I'm going to forego any sense of setting other than this really powerful sense of setting that's developed by the buildings themselves, you know, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I never really thought about it as New York, but of course it's New York, you know.
I kept trying to put a time period on it, and like so on his gravestone, spoilers if you haven't seen the movie, there is a year at the end, but it could just as easy, like, it has that kind of grungy 70s New York feel at times.
Yeah.
But also, like, that could also have been when they were growing up. Like, it kind of feels like it was one decade, the entire movie, like the past, the present.
Yeah.
But also it could be any time.
Yeah.
To some
What
degree.
did they date it as? I don't think I caught that.
It's supposed to be contemporary,
Oh,
or contemporary to its time,
so
obviously.
it was like 2000 something.
I think it was 2002, 2001.
Okay.
When did this come out?
It came out 2001.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would have thought it was earlier too. At least like 90s or earlier.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and, you know, you say the grunginess too, and trying to think of that, like the Gypsy Taxi Cab actually plays a significant role in like kind of establishing that 70s grittiness.
Right. No, that's a good point. Yeah, the crazy cab.
Yeah. But there are, I mean, it's also, you know, very much a film that I don't I don't know if it could exist in this contemporary climate either, where it's like there's Danny Glover and his son and Pagoda are really like the only actors of color in the film that I can think of right now. I mean, I think that the fact that it was like an interracial marriage that was inciting the whole thing, and also like Royals like coming at Henry Sherman in the kitchen. It was like, this is kind of weird. Did we have to go here? I mean, I guess it's Royal's character. And it made sense 20 years. It still could have made sense then, but like not now. I mean, I don't want to go too deep into like a race theory assessment of this movie. That's not really what it was, but it just is like in terms of like representing New York City as a thing. It's like just such a precious, perfect idea of this very narrow thing, and
like this one window of like this particular type of New Yorker almost.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And
well, in a weird way, I almost feel like it could potentially be like this commentary on extreme privilege also, because like the characters are just so absurd and over the top and like
it's literally inbreeding when you think about it. I mean, it's not, but like, the Margot, I mean, they're not, she's adopted, but like, it is this idea
still a
of
gray
like,
area.
It's so insular. Eli Cash wants to be a part of this family.
Right.
Everybody, like the funeral, Royal seems like a guy that would be the most gregarious guy. And I understand like they wanted to close it like a little play and just have the characters that were there. But there's no way that dude would have only those people at his funeral. Like that guy would have so many people there,
Right.
At least Rusty, the elevator operator, would have shown up.
Right, yeah, where was he?
He does show up. He does show up.
Oh, he does?
He does.
Oh, is he at the funeral?
He does show up.
Good,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean...
I rescind my comment.
we'll cut that out. But the experience of the kids, like, that they're all able to do all these insane things, like, it's otherworldly. And I'm sure there are some people in New York that live kind of like that. Like, it's probably an exaggeration of what's going on, but it is kind of an interesting, like, I don't think it was meant to be a commentary. I think it's just the aesthetic of the Wes Anderson worlds being so over the top. But it is, like, thinking about it from today's lens.
Yeah.
I can see it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think if it had tried to do more awareness of what New York was, it probably would not have succeeded in its very specific targeted purpose. I think it just, and I think Wes Anderson needed to grow as a filmmaker a little more. Like, I think he had a very singular vision and it worked out for this purpose. But I don't think it would have worked otherwise. But I thought also that probably somebody with a broader film background than myself would be able to come up with better examples. But this film in particular feels like the analogy to British humor, like the version of dry British humor. This is an American dry humor, and I couldn't. Maybe like there's also kind of like a a Mighty Wind, Christopher Guest.
Christopher Guest.
Maybe that's also kind of a British humor but American take as well.
I don't remember the director who did Metropolitan. I'm going to throw that in there too.
Yeah, it struck me as, every scene is like, we're like kind of chuckling bemusedly at pretty much any line that's being said, There's only, I don't know how many times there's like just straight out, laugh out loud, funny lines, but like every sentence that's said is kind of like, I don't know, puts that ambient humor that I think of when I think of British film, British humor film. Yeah.
I think that's a really good analogy.
Thanks.
And now I must leave.
Away. So let's move uptown.
We're still in Battery Park here.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Now we're heading up to Midtown. We got a brief shot at 111 West 44th Street of the Belasco Theater.
Yeah.
And the Belasco Theater is where Margot's comeback play, The Levinsons in the Trees, is put on and receives mixed reviews after several weeks of running. So, they only show it as an exterior establishing shot for a
Right.
few seconds. Right now, everything's closed down, but it is where Bob Dylan's Girl from North Country is supposed to be running.
Oh.
So there's like
Interesting.
scaffolding set. It's interesting. They've treated the exterior a little bit to have this kind of industrial Hibbing, Minnesota, like scaffolding thing with like burnt out letters for the Girl of North Country. But it's still the building itself, you can tell, is like has that regalness that all of the exterior establishing shots that they're looking to have,
Yeah.
But have you ever been to the Belasco by any chance?
I don't think I have.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we had gone there.
Yeah, we went when that movie that I'm forgetting the name of, but
The
the one
Irishman.
that The Irishman came out. They did that showing where you could go see it in theater through Netflix.
Yeah.
And in theater didn't mean like an AMC, it meant like at the Belasco. And it was great.
Wow.
It's a beautiful theater.
Yeah.
The inside is all ornate and painted, and it was weird to watch The Irishman there. But it was enjoyable.
Yeah.
I do have a question that might be too personal and will make you think back 18 months, so I do apologize.
Okay.
But
Okay, here we go.
how many times did you have to go to the bathroom during that movie?
Oh, once. I think I went once.
Impressive.
I think I maybe went once as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It was like-
cumulatively a score of 2.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it was this thing where I actually didn't know how long the movie was going into it. I had no idea. I thought it was going to be movie length. And then I was like, by an hour in or something, I'm like, well, I kind of have to pee, but like, I'm sure this will be over soon. And then it's like an hour and a half, and I'm like, is this movie, it doesn't seem like it's wrapping up. And then it's like 2 hours. And then I looked at the ticket and was like, oh my gosh, I gotta go.
Did they have an intermission? I don't recall.
I don't remember. They might have. Maybe they did. Maybe they had an intermission. I don't remember though.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, that movie was a very good movie I'll never watch again. Because it's too long, unfortunately. If it were 45 minutes shorter, I'd be very excited to see it again. But I remember the scene where this like retirement party for Jimmy Hoffa or something, and they're like, you go tell him that, and then they have a scene where I'll tell you that, but then you go tell him that, and it's like 25 minutes of them like, why are we doing this? Come on, Martin, please don't do this to me,
You're not close enough to call him Marty.
No. Yeah, but yeah. So that's that location, and then just a little bit to the right, a few avenues to the right, we have the Waldorf Astoria, which was changed. The name was changed, of course, in the movie to the. I thought I wrote it down, but it's like the Lindbergh Palace, I believe, hotel. The
Where
Lindbergh
he
Palace.
was living, right?
Yeah, where he was living, which one of several locations that we visited that unfortunately we couldn't reveal it in all of its grandeur. It's right now going under what appears to be pretty extensive renovation. So there, you still can see a bit of the facade, under the scaffolding, but there's like lots of like plywood boards up against windows. It honestly looks like it's been burned out in some places.
It doesn't look great.
Yeah, I'm sure it hasn't been. And there are people
Yeah.
still living there. There's I think it's called like the Towers or something like that at the Waldorf Astoria.
Yeah.
But the building itself is, I'm glad it's not being torn down. But right now, it is not, for posterity's sake, the greatest example of footage that we have for it. But
Yeah. Which, speaking of like the difficulty of filming in New York, there's so much, especially for a movie like this, where it's like so focused on the shot and the aesthetic. There's so much construction constantly everywhere. There's scaffolding and there's all the noises and yeah.
And there's
just another
sweeping rooftop shots where like it wouldn't be that hard to catch something that you don't want in your perfect pristine shot.
Right.
But
Totally. I mean,
managed.
nowadays maybe you can just, cut it out with CGI or something, but
Yeah.
particularly back in the day, I don't think you'd really have
Yeah,
much
I don't know
of
if
a...
you'd be able to do it then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that is, they must have done the filming in the lobby stuff too. I don't know if when they go up on the roof, if it's the same location or not. But I think all the lobby stuff is done there. And it's one of the anchors of the film. I mean, aside from the home itself, it really sets this idea of royal being American aristocracy and then being, booted out of that life
Yeah.
and having to figure it out. Yeah. So next up, we go uptown quite a bit on the east side. Yeah, okay. So this is 103rd Street, and this is PS 171, Patrick Henry, which is also the 375th Street Y. And this is another location that was just completely plastered with scaffolding. And we were able to go across the street, and if you squint, you can kind of understand what's going on. But it is not, you can't get that same like symmetrical, pristine vibe of, even like the gates that have like the 375. I mean, obviously those are never there.
Right.
But like just that shot it does look like it's always been in a Wes Anderson film. And it
Right.
would have been nice to see it, unadorned. But
Yeah.
this is what we live in
Maybe
right now.
one day.
Yeah, maybe one day.
Yeah. One thing that was funny when we went to that location, there was a film shoot happening
oh wow.
right like half a block, like in the same building, but right around the corner. And again, something like I've never heard of, but such a massive setup. It was called The Bad Witch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was hoping maybe you knew about it.
Yeah.
I can pretend.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, somebody, one of the PAs shouted to somebody in a car going by that it was like Gossip Girls. Whether or not
Oh.
that's true, I don't know. But
Then I'm going to assume it's on CW
yeah,
based
Oh,
on the
yeah.
title of
yeah,
this.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
But-
probably.
But it was, I mean, I don't know how long they were taking to set up, but there was a pretty significant crew there. It was on a really nice day. This week has been very nice weather-wise for people watching. I'm sure, as Ramsey knows. But there was like 80 people plus, a team of police there, and all the gear you could want set up. We ducked around the corner to do our filming for the shot that was used in the Royal Tenenbaums, and then by the time we got back around, they were already striking. Like I don't know.
Wow.
But yeah, like it
they
seemed
must
like
have just been set up already, and
I guess but I guess they knew what they wanted and they could do it one take and go. But it was kind of impressive, to be honest.
yeah.
Yeah.
All the scaffolding makes me think. So, very quick tangent.
Yeah.
For your video viewers, you already know that my hair is thinning slightly. But if I were like 3 years further ahead in that process, my plan would be to shave completely and get a wig and return from COVID, from lockdown, with like a perfect wig forever, and no one would be any wiser. Maybe this is the scaffolding is like the building equivalent of that. Like we're going to do all our restoration right now. No one's going to know. It's going to be perfect.
That's right. I don't remember this being Miami themed, but okay.
I guess it always was.
I kind of had a similar thought. I mean, I like yours is funnier, but I was just thinking like things are closed. I guess they're doing construction. But yeah, I'm very glad you said it the way you did.
I mean, yours is the more logical one without a podcast derailing tangent.
We're putting wigs on all the buildings.
Another location that's there that we could not get up to, but it's in the same complex, is the outdoor playground / exercise area where Ari and Uzi are doing their 16 times a week workout when Royal meets them for the first time. And yeah, you can see from the street that there's this metal lattice work going over the roof. We weren't able to get up there. I don't even know if they'd let us up there, even if it wasn't
Yeah,
a
I don't know.
pandemic.
I was so surprised that structure, though, is like actually a structure that people
Yeah, that's crazy that you could
use
see
to
it.
work
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
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 So working our way a little bit further up, we're hitting the home stretch now. We have the building that maybe people have been thinking, why haven't we gotten there? It's at 339 Convent Avenue, and that is on a 144th Street in Convent Avenue, and that is the Royal Tenenbaums home that was purchased in Royal Tenenbaums' 35th year, the winter of his 35th year.
Right.
Yeah, which I was like, damn, that guy's ahead of me. I need to, I need to buy a home now. But
And not just
specifically
any
that
home.
one.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I don't know. I have you been to that home at some point during the time that you've lived here?
It's insane that I haven't, given how much I love this movie.
Yeah.
And it's a very visible landmark.
Yeah.
I should do it.
Yeah, I've passed by it maybe once or twice. I don't know if I've ever gone explicitly with that reason,
Yeah.
but I have passed by it before once or twice, and this time we gave it a formal examination.
Yes.
It is a beautiful home. It is right near the is it City College? Yeah,
Yeah.
the City College in New York, which is also when we first did, I think we did like kind of a trial walk before we started the whole project. And that was really the first time that I had walked through that campus, even though I had been by this home. And it feels like an actual college campus in the middle of the city, which we went to a school that is a college campus, and you wouldn't think that exists necessarily in New York, but
No.
it
And
does.
I went to school in New York, and I did not have a campus at all.
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
a couple buildings that I went to.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's cool to
Is-
see this full campus. It's beautiful. It's like basically a big park with beautiful old architecture that students get to go to and learn.
Yeah.
Is Hamilton's The Grange right there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Very good.
So that means that I've been there and missed out on the Royal Tenenbaums house. I was so
Oh.
close.
Yeah, I mean, you're literally one avenue away from
Oh,
there.
man.
Yeah. But it is a gorgeous home. It's unclear if one family lives there. I would kind of, honestly, I'd be skeptical. But I don't know for certain one
It
way
was
or the
hard
other.
to tell. It looked like there were two entrances. The one entrance had no apartment doorbells, so I imagine that's just an entrance for one family. And then the other one, it had an intercom, but I didn't see multiple buzzers.
I mean, maybe it is.
So it's still unclear because sometimes that's on the inside of like the exterior door too. So
Yeah. But I believe they acquired that home for the filming because it was undergoing renovations at the time. I could be
Oh.
wrong, but I feel like I read that somewhere. So it may be that once the renovations were over, it became multifamily. Or maybe it's just somebody decided that they wanted it for the home. I mean, it's a beautiful space right in the
Yeah.
corner. And it's, as well, Jesse mentioned when Eli Cash is driving down, high on mescaline, it's a one-way street, so it's not a lot
he
of
was
traffic.
driving the wrong way.
Yeah, not a lot of traffic that's happening.
Yeah.
And from all kind of the degree that which we can explore, it looks like they filmed at least some of the wedding scene out there as well. There's a little patio on the side, and so it was slate on the ground, which that was there. And then there is a wooden gate, and I don't believe it was the gate that they hop over when they go into the Japanese garden, or it's like that's the consulate house, whatever it is that's next door. I don't believe that exists next door. I think they jump somewhere, but it also may just be a separate part of the same grounds.
Yeah.
It's not entirely clear.
Yeah, it was hard to tell.
Yeah, I don't get the sense that they did too much completely different location matching, where they would cut and then go to a totally different place. I don't think they did that much in the film, which leads me to believe they'd probably try and avoid that if at all possible. The home itself, I don't know if any of those interior things were done there. I didn't.
I believe they were, if I remember from watching the DVD extra features
Nice.
Oh,
years ago.
nice.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I think it falls in line with the idea that they had the house, so they would use it to their max advantage. And also, it would be, I mean, it seems like he likes to keep things as authentic as possible. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's,
And
yeah.
oh, just the number of shots of like them like looking wistfully out the window of
Right.
like panning up,
Yeah.
where like they would have to be in there,
Yeah.
whether or not the sets were.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's huge. I mean, the building itself is actually that big. So, and it looks like we couldn't go in, we couldn't see in, and none of the windows were open. But there were a couple that had like just the screen, and it seemed like the inside could match.
Yeah.
I felt like from the outside.
Yeah. I don't know.
One thing.
Yeah, go on.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, go on.
I will say about that Eli scene. One thing I do want to point out, in case this podcast inspires listeners to rewatch the film.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed he hits a mailbox and then hits the building. I only noticed him in one shot, but a mailman runs over to pick up the letters, and it made me laugh out loud.
Really?
I think
Yep.
I noticed a guy. I didn't notice him running. I did notice at some point that guy
He may
was
not
picking
have
up
been,
letters.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Also in that, I guess it was a dolly scene like after everything. Also, there's no consequences for Eli Cash. Let's put that out there.
I
a good point.
You know, he was literally 48 hours later when they're in judge's chambers getting married. He's somehow a best man or something. Like nobody seems to care that he killed a dog, and you know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Was also just driving recklessly
Yeah.
on drugs.
Yeah.
Yep.
Another thing that I noticed about that the wedding scene, which was interesting, is that all of the men characters, including Dudley and Riley, are in the same suit. So like Dudley is in the wedding party, or they I think Wes Anderson was just kind of really getting his uniformity in for Life Aquatic like early, you know, like he was really working that
Right.
phase out. But it felt good, like insofar as like, okay, this is the climactic scene and all the characters in the play are getting together in this one, you know, type of outfit.
Yeah. It once you pointed it out and I started I understand what happens at a wedding and what people usually wear to a wedding. And these are like very rich people. Like it's not like they went and got a bulk deal on suits for everyone or something. Like they could all afford to get their own fancy suits.
Yeah.
So then
And Indochino.
yeah.
Use promo code Total Clarity.
We're sponsored now.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
But once you pointed that out, I thought that was really funny. And I don't know if I liked that choice or not.
Yeah.
Once I realized it. But I think I didn't realize it at first, so it
Yeah.
probably was fine.
Yeah. I didn't know if I was going to bring this up or not, but I did keep it in case. I don't know to what degree you're familiar with the idea that I make a mask for Halloween every year.
I am familiar with this idea.
Yeah, well, it's been 10 years, so you were there for at least some part of it. I very rarely make a mask that is based on a character. In fact, this might be the only year that this actually happened. However, one year for Halloween, I wore this shirt and wore a wig and went as...
And a fringed jacket.
And a fringe jacket. And I went as Eli Cash from crashing into the wedding, which included... I won't put the whole thing on, but this is the mask that I was wearing
wow.
down with the paint. You can be afraid. It's definitely part of the aesthetic.
Yeah, that is like the anime version, like spooked up. I like it.
That's right. Yeah.
And you painted your face underneath.
Underneath the face was painted. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was a lot of fun to
It was
be
great.
That's really cool.
painted like that.
Yeah.
And I ran into. Boy, I'm getting myself into a story. I shouldn't do this. I was at a Halloween party, and I was waiting online for the bathroom, and it was like a long, narrow hallway, and there were a bunch of people just waiting there, and then the door opened, and no, I asked if anybody was going, and nobody was going, so I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll just go, and then I closed the door, and I was in the bathroom, and then some guy was like, hey, who the hell just went in there? Did somebody just cut line? I'm going to kick that guy's ass. And I was
Whoa.
like, all of a sudden I felt exactly like Eli Cash. like where's the door? With the window? How am I going to get out of here? And then I ended up having like an encounter with this person as I got out of the bathroom, where he was like looking to like I don't know, kick my ass for absolutely no reason, and I was able to encounter my way out of it, and then go to the guest or like the host of the party and be like, who is this guy? And they're like, we have no idea who he is. And then they had to kick him out.
So so he was the Eli Cash.
Kind of. Yeah. But it was just funny being in this situation where it's like, I'm completely face painted and I have a fringe jacket on and somebody wants to kick my ass. This seems about right.
Did you speak to him in your Owen Wilson voice? Because you were also speaking as Owen Wilson being Eli Cash that entire night.
I don't know if I spoke like that.
Everybody knows that I was just trying to go to the bathroom, but what you're presupposing is that I was doing.
Maybe I didn't. Yeah, no. I don't know if I could do that. The only thing, the reason I did that costume that year is because I was walking on the street one day and I saw a dog being walked by a man, and I thought if I were Owen Wilson and I stole the dog and then I had to explain it to somebody, I'd go, I stole a dog. And that's about as far as I can get. But
that's really good.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is the Halloween that I went as Eli Cash. Last location, just 7 streets up, or 0.7 miles up, but referred to as, I haven't gone out there in a long time. Mm-hmm. Doesn't have a title. As far as I know, it doesn't have a location name. And that's the cemetery where Royal's mother is buried, where Chaz's wife is buried. And I think...
And where they bury Royal.
And where they, yes.
At the end, I
Major
think.
Spoiler, jeez.
Well, we already spoiled it.
I said it earlier.
No, but you tried to keep it cool. I mean, look, if you're watching this, I don't know why you decided to watch us three idiots.
Yeah, weirdo.
Do the locations review first.
Yeah, that's the part of the podcast where we make fun of you, stupid. Right. Why'd you do that?
But so we went to it's actually the graveyard for Trinity Church, all the way downtown.
Oh.
Yeah. And so we
Cemetery.
Cemetery.
Sorry.
I guess, well...
Graveyard specifically, one of our friends, Knox, who has worked on some Wes Anderson films, bringing it all together, pointed out in one of our first episodes that we were saying graveyard for a cemetery. And a graveyard is only if the graves are in the yard of the church. And the cemetery is when the graves that belong to that church are somewhere else. So anyway, because Trinity Church is downtown, this is their cemetery, even though there is another church right next to the cemetery, but it is not their graves, so it is not their yard.
Correct. I was going to make a point, but it's just going to get even more jumbled. You did a fantastic job. You are 100% correct.
Thank you.
So, yes, Trinity Cemetery is up there on 153rd Street.
And I think, I think because Trinity Church is this really well-known church down on Wall Street, and I think they moved all of their graves uptown, I want to say during the cholera outbreak, which was also when Queens and Brooklyn started building cemeteries.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was that, which again just ties to where we are in our outbreaks of viruses.
Yeah. It made me wonder because they keep saying I haven't been out there in years. Mm-hmm. And the way that they shoot it, it does make it look like it is not in the city. Mm-hmm. It's up on a hill, and you can kind of get the Palisades and the view out there, which is not Queens and Brooklyn. But I wondered how much of like the actual idea of what New York cemeteries is, which is to say, out in the nearer Queens and Brooklyn, far Brooklyn areas. I wonder how much they were trying to reference that. Or if they just wanted to make it seem like it's not a part of the city. I wasn't sure.
It does feel very Greenwood. I initially thought that until you could see the water.
Good point.
Yeah.
So, we went there, and it was one of the other locations that was inaccessible to us, which was very strange because we've been walking around now for 38 weeks, and all of the cemeteries have been open. And in fact, they're kind of like one of the only places where it's appropriate to be walking around during a pandemic. You can keep distance pretty easily. You can enjoy outdoor space.
Yeah.
So I wonder if there's some type of politics at play, because in addition to that, there is an interesting residents that live in the cemetery. Do you want to talk about it?
Sure.
Ghosts?
Well, in addition to the many, many ghosts at Trinity Cemetery, there's also...
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Yeah, keep it legal.
That's right.
There's also at least 6 to 8 cats that live in a little cat colony in the cemetery that the groundskeepers of the cemetery and the people involved in the church apparently aren't fond of. But there are people from both the neighborhood and people that are not from the neighborhood that come out and feed the cat colonies and take care of them. And we found this out because yesterday, we got there at the end of the day. The gates were closed. We thought we were just late. Turns out they're just closed. But there were a bunch of cats hanging out right near the gate. And we were like, this is funny. We're like looking at the cats. And we were standing there for a while. And then this man behind us started talking to us, and he was there to feed the cats.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we learned about there's this whole world, I guess, of people that go, this guy in particular was coming from downtown to feed this cat colony. He feeds another cat colony up a little bit further. I think he said up in like near Inwood, a little bit further north. And I think he said he had a third cat colony that he takes care of, also uptown. So this whole environment of people that travel to take care of feral cats.
Yeah.
I've never heard the term cat colony before. I really like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, this guy was a character, I would say, insofar as I wouldn't expect he seemed like kind of a conservative New York Posty type guy, but had an extreme fondness for cats and making sure that they were okay. And he also had a distinct dislike for the groundskeepers, because part of it was, I don't think you mentioned it, they, back in September or something, had destroyed 4 of the cats, and he thought that it was done out of spite and not out of any actual reason. And so there was a great deal of animosity coming from him. And but it seemed like it was more, it was his hobby, it was his passion. He himself is trained in tagging and releasing them, which is to say, I guess he can neuter them.
The whole TNR he said he's trained in.
Yeah.
Huh.
Trap, neuter, and release.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was.
That's quite a hobby.
Yeah,
I know,
exactly.
right?
Yeah. It was interesting to be able to interact with him. I'm glad he started the conversation. It's nice when we're out walking and people initiate, and then they have this whole crazy backstory that we would not have known otherwise.
Yeah. Well, and it's also...
Oh no, you get that chapter 1 of the Royal Tenenbaums from each of these
That's right.
people.
That's right.
Exactly. Yeah.
All of a sudden, Alec Baldwin's talking somewhere.
He did feel like someone that could have been a character in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we got there Thursday. We weren't able to get in. We were hopeful that we could get in. We could not get in. We did some filming from the sides. We managed to actually capture one particular cat that he told us about while we were there that has 3 legs.
It.
And
the Three-Legged Calico.
Yeah.
Wow.
He kept when we were talking to him, he kept referencing it. He was saying, "Oh yes, there's the black one, there's the spotted one, there's the Three-Legged Calico. The Three-Legged Calico usually comes to eat last. I haven't seen her yet today. I'm a little worried about her. I hope she's okay. She usually comes last because she's a little timid, but this one usually comes last too. And he's here. He's here today. He's eating first." And so we heard all about this Three-Legged Calico, and then today, the Three-Legged Calico is the only one that came to visit us. And I was so impressed by the way she could jump over, there's a wall of rocks, and she could traverse that as well as any mountain lion.
It was pretty impressive. You could tell where the feral instincts were kicking in there.
Yeah.
And so we kind of walked the perimeter, got some footage, and one great thing that if it hadn't been closed, we probably would not have seen. But the church that is generally within what would be considered the grounds is the Church of the Intercession, and it has this amazing cloister courtyard where it's like the vaulted, roofs, and we were like walked in there to see if we could get access to the graveyards, but we ended up staying there just for a few minutes to experience it. I mean, it was like a free trip to the cloisters, where you could go to that museum, and it was really like not much else you would see in the city.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was really pleasant.
I would say, yeah, if you're watching this and you're actually genuinely interested in the Royal Tenenbaums locations, going to the house and going to this graveyard site, which will be reopening in the spring, by the way.
Yeah.
We did find out in a couple weeks it'll be open again to the public. That is definitely worth your while. You'll find a lot of interesting stuff out there.
Yeah. And to Ramsey, too, who hasn't been up there.
That's right.
Not only
That's
those
right.
of you who are watching.
Yeah.
And if you're a cat watching this, there's some free food
That's right.
over
It's a
at the
good
cemetery.
place. We should let the cats know for sure.
Yeah.
A lot,
We know a guy.
when we go into our SEO, a lot of it says that it's coming from cat colonies.
That's
So-
right. That's right.
Yep. It's a meow.01 IP address.
That's exactly what it is. You must know.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we get a lot of crossover on my podcast as well.
Yeah. Go on.
Oh no, I just dangle the string all the time, just while we're recording the podcast. They love it.
Yeah. So, speaking of, we're going to segue the shit out of this.
Oh my goodness.
Tell us a little bit about your podcast.
Yeah. We listened to your most recent episode this morning, and it's very entertaining.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and I'm excited to listen to more. But will you tell us a bit about it?
I would love to.
Great.
I was not intending to. Thank you for taking that segue. It's called If You're Listening. And the short version is, in high school, I exclusively listened to movie soundtracks, and They Might Be Giants. And Weird Al. We'll throw Weird Al in
Okay.
there for full transparency. And so my friend Heather, who is super immersed in the emo and punk scene, we started a podcast in which she exposes me to all the music that I missed out on. And then we also have a guest every few episodes who brings an album from their own high school experience. So we get kind of a wide variety of different albums. And we've had a lot of awesome people on. We've had like Paul Rust, and we recently had John Flansburgh from They Might Be Giants on there, which was
wow.
Awesome.
huge dream come true.
Yeah, I
was
bet.
a huge dork the whole time.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's a lot of fun. And then we do like kind of an audio commentary on the actual album in which I talk about how much I actually like it or how my ears are bleeding.
Right.
I was pleased to see how frank you were about not liking the track. I mean, what do you have a sense of the ratio of like to dislike?
Oh, that's a good question. I feel like when we started, I disliked it more because it was kind of foreign to me, but now I've had some really awful experiences on the show of really terrible music that I don't understand why it exists, that then when something that probably I would have hated early on comes up, I'm like, oh no, this is I understand this. It's
Right.
not for me, but like this isn't the worst thing I've ever heard.
Right.
That's at the drive-in.
Amazing. I actually appreciated in the most recent episode you referenced you couldn't figure it out, but Heather called it out to you. The Say Anything song, I Can Get Sexual Too, I think, is like, is this that song? And I appreciated it because that reminds me so much of Geneseo.
100%.
Yeah, and so that was a fun little link for me, at least. Before we go, one thing I wanted to ask, and I didn't ask you to prepare for this or not, but
Pop quiz.
hotshot. If you had to do top 3 Wes Anderson movies, I don't think the whole discography is practical, or filmography. What would the top 3 be, and does this fall? I guess we'll find out if this movie falls in.
Well, you're very lucky that I was thinking about this
Oh,
very
good.
afternoon after reassessing this movie. So the number 1 and 2 slots, I think, alternate pretty frequently between Rushmore and Royal Tenenbaums for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just whatever way the wind's blowing, how I'm feeling at that moment. The third spot is also an alternating spot, and I'm not sure. Let me just check inside real quick. I think I'm going to go... Oh, it wasn't what I was expecting. It's going to be the Grand Budapest Hotel.
Oh,
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, that one's good.
What was the honorable mention?
It very well could have been The Life Aquatic.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I like... Oh, go ahead.
No, you go.
I was just like, I think Budapest edges out slightly just because it is sort of it feels like peak Wes Anderson in a way, where like no matter what thing I want from it, it's going to be in that particular movie.
Yeah.
Right.
Fantastic.
So that's why I leaned that way.
Nice.
Now you.
Yeah. Do you have 3?
I'm hosting your show.
Please.
I do, and then I also have a question. Well, Life Aquatic is my number 1.
Okay.
I also haven't seen all of them. Like, I've never seen Rushmore.
How have you not seen...
You say this every time I say it, and then it makes, and then you say it in this way where you're like, I'm sure we've watched it together, and I'm like, maybe we have, but wouldn't I remember?
Yeah.
So I think I have to say Life Aquatic is number 1. I would put the Grand Budapest Hotel as number 2. And I would put the Royal Tenenbaums as number 3. But I feel like I have to give an honorable mention to something that is not... I remember when it came out and people were like, I don't like it. And it's the one that I am forgetting the name, the one where they're camping. It's one of the new, like the one from a couple...
Moonrise
it's
Kingdom.
Not new, actually.
Moonrise
Kingdom. And I think I have to give an honorable mention to that because part of the reason I didn't see a lot of these is that probably just that I'm a little bit younger than you guys. And I think maybe like I didn't catch these earlier ones.
Okay.
Sure.
Or if I did, like I didn't quite get it yet. And then
Right.
Moonrise Kingdom came out when did that come out? 2008, 2009, 2010, somewhere
sounds
around
right.
then. So
Sure.
that would have been when I was in college, and I think I watched that, and it was an entry into the Wes Anderson world. And then I was like, this is what I want to watch more of. So not necessarily that Moonrise Kingdom is like what is the best movie in my opinion, but I have a fondness for it because of how it brought me into
Right.
what had already happened. So
Excellent.
that's my list.
Nice. That's a great, another great segue. And that's what were you going to say? Tell me.
No. It was going to derail. So please use your
Fantastic.
segue. I love your segues.
Thanks. I guess I can't even say hate that movie because I've never been able to finish it. It is so grating to me, that movie, because it's frustrating to me. I remember that I was like, when will you develop as a director? I am sick of you being in this mode. And I think I've tried to watch it either 2 or 3 times, and I've never gotten past 15 minutes. So it's really, truly an incomplete. It may well change or something. But it was just like, it was very frustrating that it didn't do what I think the Grand Budapest Hotel did, which was finally develop another gear. And so, yeah, that would be my number 3 is the Grand Budapest Hotel. And
But what's your 1 and 2?
my number 2 is the Royal Tenenbaums, and my number 1 is Rushmore.
Oh.
So there you go. I mean,
But did Wes Anderson, now that I'm
Wow.
thinking about it, did he also make the animated dog movie?
I was surprised you didn't bring that up.
Because he's done some animated movies. But I think, oh shoot. I did love that dog movie.
it's a good movie. I almost feel like those are separate
It's
things.
like a different,
you know,
it's a different experience.
but I can see why you might like them. Yeah.
I hate to admit
Yeah.
that I've only seen Isle of Dogs once, and I fell asleep during it. I didn't want to,
Oh,
That's
wow.
and I need to rewatch it. I've brought it up several times to rewatch it, but it's kind of a bummer at times. So that we just like, I don't want to watch that right now. It's kind of sad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I watched that. I had just gotten an
Oh, yeah,
endoscopy.
you had just gotten an endoscopy.
And then,
Oh, boy.
And the idea was we went and saw a double feature. We saw
At 2 different movie theaters, though. We
Yeah.
went to an AMC to see The Isle of Dogs, and then we walked about 10 blocks and we went to the IFC to see The Death of Stalin.
which.
Oh,
Have you seen The Death of Stalin?
I have.
Oh boy, I love that movie. It's not. Yeah, I won't get into
That
it.
might
but-
be my favorite Wes Anderson movie.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But yeah, I mean, I think Rushmore is really the biggest example of what Wes Anderson. He's like J.D. Salinger, like Catcher in the Rye of filmmaking. And I mean, we're the same age essentially, and that like I remember. I think I saw. I don't know if you saw it in theaters. I saw it in theaters, but I remember.
I saw it on Comedy Central.
Really? Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, but that's kind of like the same type of thing. I inherited so much from Comedy Central, like watching it at home. But just I remember being like, I'm not really sure what I saw, but I know that I really liked it because it's just a different brand of humor entirely, and so well paced and aesthetically like spot on. And it's smaller in ambition than Royal Tenenbaums, I think, but bigger in ambition than Bottle Rocket. And like it didn't feel Rushmore felt like he was given a little more leash than Bottle Rocket. Bottle Rocket feels a little like I need to make my first film by largely the Hollywood metrics in order to get a shot at my second film, and then really start running with what I believe to be my aesthetic. But but yeah, Rushmore is number one for me. Was that number 2 for you or number 1 for you?
I've already lost track. Those
I
two.
think you switched
it was
back and
interchangeable.
forth,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
said.
Yeah.
So
I wanted to ask, but I guess maybe you've already answered it by saying that you fell asleep during the Isle of Dogs and that you can't get through Moonrise Kingdom. But I am curious, like, are there least favorites, since we're listing favorites? Not to be like a negative Nancy or whatever, but hey.
I think by necessity of having to plug them all in, there are least favorites.
Oh, I guess that's true. Yeah.
But I mean, I'm just that's not a fair answer to your question. I think except for Isle of Dogs, just because I'm waiting for the Criterion edition, I own them all, and I have popped them all in at some point. I might say Bottle Rocket. That is probably the one I've seen the least. I do like it and I appreciate it, but I feel like it's not a story I'm super I'm not as interested in, and it feels a little slower. You can tell the budget's a little lower. It's just not the one I go back to.
Yeah. I like
guys?
Bottle Rocket. I mean, I already fully admitted that my favorite one, or least favorite one's the one I can't see or can't watch. Whatever I'm saying,
The Moonrise.
But I mean, now we're doing the whole thing. I'll do it very quickly. Life Aquatic, I didn't like really initially, but I have it's grown on me. I thought, and then Darjeeling is actually kind of higher than I think it is for many people. It might be 4 or 5 for me. And then Moonrise, I guess Moonrise is after that. That was so disappointing for me. Somewhere, I think Fantastic Mr. Fox is between Darjeeling and Moonrise.
Yes.
And I like that and Isle of Dogs, but it's like this separate children's movie track that's enjoyable for adults. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. I'm excited for. Did a movie just come out that he was doing? Or
it's on the shelf.
It's on the shelf, like permanently, or until COVID's
no,
over?
it was going to come out, I think, over the summer.
Yeah, I remember seeing the trailer and being like, oh, all right.
I'm so pumped. And it's about like 1960s New Yorker-esque writers. Yeah, like little short. Sign me up.
Yeah,
fun.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, I feel the Grand Budapest Hotel for me redeemed him. I was really. I don't know. I don't really have like a lot of irrational hatred for things like that typically, but for whatever reason, Moonrise Kingdom was just, it was, I guess, to really encapsulate the whole thing, we talk about how Margot and what's his name? Luke Wilson, Richie, kind of like, crystallized this aesthetic that lasted for like 10 years. It just felt like the Moonrise Kingdom was like, you're just a twee bridge too far. Like it had just lasted for so long, and like, come on, get with some type of times here. I can't imagine that you want to make these movies anymore. Like, but I guess he had one more in him. I don't know.
Yeah.
He needed to do it for the college students.
That's right. The
You had
next
to get you in.
generation. That's
it was
right.
for me.
That's right. Well, we need to watch Rushmore.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. So actually, I realized as you were talking about it, I think why you think I've seen it is because I think I've lied and said that I've seen. You know how you do that? I don't do that anymore. But you know that experience where like when you're just trying to like you're like maybe with the music that you're listening to on your podcast, maybe you even did that in high school when you're just
I'm sure I did. Yes.
Someone's like, oh yeah, you know that movie Rushmore? Love that movie. And I'm like, yeah, I love that movie.
Oh, I see from your T-shirt you guys enjoyed the Corn. I also like that band.
Yeah, corn. I love corn. Do you use the little skewers? That was a joke. I knew it was a band.
My favorite song is where they explain in detail why they use K instead of C.
That's right. Yes.
Anyway, there's nowhere to end this. There's no segue for the conclusion of this. It's been a wonderful time talking to you. Let's do
Disagree.
this with.
Goodbye. Wherever.
Let's do this. Sooner than 10 years from now.
I agree with this.
Yes.
Perhaps at the Grand Prospect Hall.
That's right.
Ooh.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we can get ice cream.
All right, everybody, that's it for the episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed talking it out. If you want to check out Ramsey's podcast, again, it's the If You're Listening show. It's available on Spotify and other platforms.
Yeah, and it's, as we just said, we've listened to a bit of it. You've enjoyed it. We will be listening to more. We hope you join us in listening to more. Also, if you like our podcast, you can click on that little like button. We'd appreciate it. You can share it. You can subscribe. You can comment, blah, blah, blah. Do it all. We love it. We love you. Thank you.
That's right. Until next time, take care.
Bye.
Bye.